For a moment, it felt like the NASCAR world had gone silent in the worst possible way. Kyle Busch. Just seeing that name beside the word death was enough to make fans stop scrolling. Because Kyle Busch is not a background character in racing. He is a lightning strike in human form. He is the driver people have cheered, booed, defended, mocked, feared, and followed for years. He has been the guy fans love to hate, and the guy even his critics could never ignore. So when searches for Kyle Busch death suddenly started appearing online, it did not feel like a normal internet trend. It felt like an alarm. People saw the phrase and reacted with their gut first. Some felt confused. Some felt scared. Some immediately rushed to find out if something terrible had happened. And in that tense space before facts caught up, panic began to move. That is how the internet works in its most dangerous moments. A frightening phrase appears. A few people ask questions. A few more people repeat those questions. Then suddenly, thousands of fans are searching the same thing, not because they know the answer, but because they are afraid of what the answer might be. With Kyle Busch, that fear spread fast because his name carries weight. He is a two-time NASCAR Cup Series champ. He is one of the most successful and polarizing drivers of his era. He has won races, lost tempers, created controversy, delivered unforgettable moments, and built a reputation as one of the fiercest competitors in modern motorsports. For some fans, he has always been the villain in the black hat. For others, he has been the relentless fighter who never cared how loud the boos became. But no matter where people stand on him, Kyle Busch has always mattered. That is why this rumor hit so hard. It was not just curiosity. It was fear attached to a familiar face. Fans started checking recent updates. They searched NASCAR accounts. They looked through racing news pages. They scanned comments, team posts, social media feeds, and anything that seemed official. And when people could not immediately find a simple explanation for why the phrase was spreading, the uncertainty became its own kind of fuel. That empty space is where rumors breathe. Not inside confirmed reports. Not inside verified statements. Not inside trusted updates. Inside the gap between a scary search term and a clear answer. And once Kyle Busch's name entered that gap, fans filled it with worry. The important truth is this. There is no confirmed evidence in reliable public reporting that Kyle Busch has died. The phrase became a viral search topic and an online rumor, not a verified announcement. That line matters more than anything, because a rumor is not a fact. A search trend is not proof. A wave of frightened comments is not confirmation. But when the word death gets attached to a famous person, especially someone connected to a dangerous sport, people do not always pause long enough to separate fear from reality. They react like something has already happened. They search with pressure in their chest. They refresh pages like they are waiting for bad news. They remember the crashes, the fires, the impacts, the shattered cars, the long silences after a wreck. Motorsports has always carried that shadow. Even with modern safety, every fan knows racing is built around speed, risk, and a thin line between control and chaos. Kyle Busch has spent his career living on that line. He has charged into corners with aggression. He has fought for inches at speeds most people will never understand. He has built his name by refusing to fade into the background. So, when a rumor like this appears, some people believe it could be true before they even see evidence. Not because the evidence is there, but because the fear already is. That is the emotional trap. The mind connects Kyle Busch to racing. It connects racing to danger. It connects danger to the worst possible outcome. And before anyone checks a reliable source, panic has already started writing its own story. The internet does not need much to create that storm. One vague post can do it. One misleading headline can do it. One old crash clip can resurface at the wrong time and do it. One comment asking, "Is Kyle Busch dead?" can push people into a spiral. Once a question like that appears online, it does not stay quiet for long. It starts moving before anyone can catch it. It slips into comment sections. It appears beneath race clips. It shows up beside highlight reels. It lands in search bars where nervous fans type fast and hope they are wrong. And that is where the danger begins. Because most viral death rumors do not explode because one person has proof. They explode because thousands of people feel the same sudden fear at the same time. One fan sees a phrase. Another fan notices people reacting. Someone else searches Kyle Busch's name with shaking curiosity. Then more people follow, not because they believe it, but because they need to know what everyone else is seeing. That is how confusion starts to look like confirmation. The internet does not always understand fear. It only understands motion. It sees a name rising. It sees people clicking. It sees people pausing. It sees people asking the same frightening question again and again. And instead of slowing the moment down, the machine pushes it farther. Suddenly, the phrase is in more feeds. Suddenly, casual fans are pulled into the panic. Suddenly, people who were not even thinking about NASCAR are wondering why Kyle Busch is being searched in such a dark way. That is how a rumor turns into a wave. Not with proof, not with clarity, not with an official report, just with fear moving faster than facts. And when that wave reaches real fans, it hits differently. Because Kyle Busch is not just a random name to the NASCAR world. He is a figure people have watched for years with clenched fists, raised voices, and racing hearts. He has been cheered. He has been booed. He has been defended like family. He has been criticized like an enemy. That is the strange power of a driver like Kyle Busch. Even people who claimed they could not stand him still watched him. They watched because he mattered. They watched because he could change a race in one move. They watched because when his car was near the front, the entire mood of the track could shift. Kyle Busch built his career by being impossible to ignore. He was never just background noise. He was the driver who could make a quiet Sunday feel dangerous. He could turn a restart into a storm. He could make fans lean forward because something was about to happen. That is why the rumor struck a nerve. It was not only about a headline. It was about memories. It was about families watching races together. It was about arguments in living rooms. It was about people remembering victories, crashes, rivalries, interviews, tempers, triumphs, and all the complicated emotion that follows a racer who never blended in. Sports fans build bonds they do not always admit. They may never meet the athlete. They may complain about him for half his career. They may root against him every weekend. But when a terrifying rumor appears, the old rivalry suddenly feels small. The driver becomes a person again. The number on the car becomes a human being. The public figure becomes a father, a husband, and someone with a real life beyond the noise of the track. That is the part the internet often forgets. A trending name is still a person. A viral phrase can still hurt real people. A rumor can still frighten fans who care. And when the subject is Kyle Busch, the reaction becomes even more intense because his career has been lived in front of millions. People feel like they know the fire in him. They feel like they know the attitude. They feel like they know the swagger, the frustration, the confidence, and the edge. So when his name is suddenly attached to a frightening search, people do not scroll past calmly. They stop. They search. They ask. They worry. But fear is not evidence. And that line matters. As of reliable public information, there is no confirmed evidence that Kyle Busch has died. The panic around the phrase came from on-site searching, speculation, and rumor momentum, not from a verified official report confirming such a tragedy. That does not mean the concern was fake. It means a concern should not be mistaken for proof. Those two things are not the same. The internet has made that harder to remember. A phrase can trend before anyone understands why. A question can spread before there is an answer. For a moment, all it took was one frightening search beside Kyle Busch's name to make NASCAR fans freeze. Not a crash replay, not a rivalry clip, not another argument about talent, attitude, or legacy. Just a few words that sounded too heavy to ignore. Kyle Busch has never been the kind of driver people casually notice and forget. He has been loud in the memory of the sport, loud in victory, loud in defeat, and loud even when he was not trying to be. Fans have watched him win with ice in his veins. They have watched him race like the track owed him something. They have watched him anger crowds, silence critics, and drag entire grandstands into his story whether they loved him or hated him. That is what made the sudden attention around Kyle Busch death feel so unsettling. The phrase did not land like normal internet noise. It landed like a punch to the chest. Because when a name has been part of race weekends for so long, it stops feeling distant. A driver becomes part of family conversations, part of Sunday routines, part of arguments in living rooms, garages, group chats, and bar stools after the checkered flag falls. Kyle Busch became that kind of figure. He was the guy some fans defended with everything they had. He was the guy others wanted beaten every single week. But even the people who booed him knew the sport felt different when he was in the fight. That is why the rumor spread with such force. It was not because everyone had proof. It was because everyone had history. People saw the phrase. They felt that sudden drop in their stomach. Then they started doing what the internet has trained everyone to do in a panic. They searched again. They opened another app. They checked recent posts. They looked for a headline that would either confirm the fear or make it disappear. Every second without a clear answer made the silence feel bigger than it really was. That is how a rumor begins to breathe, not through facts, through fear,
Through half-seen words.
through search bars, reposts, reactions, and people asking the same question with shaking curiosity. And with Kyle Busch, the fear had extra weight. NASCAR is built on speed, but every fan knows speed has a shadow. The sport is beautiful because it is dangerous. Engines roar, the cars blur, the passes make people stand up, and underneath all of it is the understanding that the margin can be terrifyingly thin. So when a dark phrase attaches itself to a driver's name, fans do not treat it like harmless gossip. They treat it like smoke rising beyond the grandstand. They may not know where it came from. They may not know if there is a fire. But they feel the alarm before they see the truth. That is exactly why the Kyle Busch death rumor needed to be handled carefully. Because as of reliable public information, there is no confirmed evidence that Kyle Busch has died. Trusted reporting has not verified the rumor as fact. What appeared online was a wave of searching, concern, and unverified claims circling around a phrase that scared people. That line matters. It matters because a search trend is not an obituary. A viral phrase is not confirmation. A worried post is not proof. And a rumor repeated by thousands of people can still be wrong. The internet often makes panic look official before anything has actually been confirmed. It gives fear a headline shape. It gives confusion a sense of urgency. It makes people feel like they are late to breaking news, even when the only thing breaking is the chain between caution and emotion. Kyle Busch became the center of that storm because his name carries power. He is not a background character in racing. He is a champion, a lightning rod, and one of the most recognizable figures of his era. His career has been filled with moments that demanded reaction, trophies that made supporters proud, mistakes that gave critics ammunition, feuds that lit up fan bases, comebacks that reminded people why raw talent is so hard to dismiss. With Kyle Busch, nothing ever seemed small. A win became a conversation. A wreck became a debate. A radio message could turn into a whole new argument online. That kind of career builds more than fame. It builds emotional ownership. Fans feel like they know the story because they have lived through pieces of it with him. After years of battles, burnouts, rivalries, interviews, and radio messages sharp enough to cut through the noise of an engine, fans feel like they understand Kyle Busch in a way that is hard to explain. Not as a neighbor, not as a friend, not as someone they truly know behind closed doors, but as a presence, as a force, as the driver who could climb out of a car after a miserable finish and still look like he was replaying every corner in his head, searching for the one move that could have changed everything. As the driver who could hear boosts pouring down from the grandstands and stand there anyway, wearing the reaction like it was just another part of the uniform. As the competitor who never made losing look casual because with Kyle Busch, winning never felt like a preference. It felt like survival. He rumor hit harder than a normal internet search. It did not land like a random phrase. It landed on years of memories, arguments, frustration, respect, and noise. For some fans, Kyle Busch belongs to Sunday afternoons in the living room with engines rumbling through the television and family members choosing sides like the race was personal. For others, he is the villain they love to complain about, the driver who ruined their favorite driver's day and somehow made the moment even more unforgettable. For many, he is proof that respect and dislike can live in the same heart, because even fans who rooted against him knew he was never harmless on a racetrack. That kind of name does not move quietly through the internet. It carries weight. It carries history. It carries emotion before anyone even clicks. So when the word death began appearing beside Kyle Busch's name, it created a jolt before facts had a chance to catch up. People did not simply wonder what happened. They felt their stomach drop. They searched with fear because motorsports has never been a sport where danger is imaginary. They searched because racing fans know the sound of a broadcast changing tone. They know the silence that can fall after a hard impact. They know the feeling of watching safety crews move fast while everyone waits for one sign that the driver is okay. That memory sits inside the sport. It is always there. Even when the cars are safer, even when the drivers walk away, even when the race continues. So when a terrifying word gets attached to a famous driver, panic does not wait politely for confirmation. It moves fast. It moves through comments. It moves through search bars. It moves through fans who only wanted to know if something awful had happened. And that is where the truth has to be protected. As of reliable public information, the Kyle Busch death rumor is not confirmed as reality. There is no verified report from trusted racing sources proving that Kyle Busch has died. There is no confirmed evidence that a viral search phrase should be treated as an official announcement. That distinction matters, because online fear can feel real even when the claim behind it is not verified. A phrase can trend without being true. A rumor can spread without a source. A search spike can look like breaking news even when it is really just confusion feeding on itself. That is what made this moment so unsettling. The panic became its own engine. One person sees the phrase and searches because they are worried. Another person notices the phrase rising and assumes there must be a reason. Then more people click, more posts appear, more comments ask questions, and suddenly the internet looks convinced of something it has not proven. That is the cruel loop. Fear creates the search. The search creates the trend. The trend creates more fear. By the time people start asking where it began, the rumor already feels bigger than the truth. Kyle Busch became the center of that storm because his name has never been quiet. He has always lived in the loudest corner of NASCAR. He was never the driver fans ignored while waiting for someone else to make the race interesting. He was the one people watched because something could happen. A restart could change. A rivalry could flare. A late move could turn a calm finish into a week-long argument. A Kyle Busch win could split a crowd in half. One side would cheer because they saw greatness. He is a figure people have watched grow, explode, stumble, recover, win, lose, and keep coming back with that same restless fire. For NASCAR fans, Kyle Busch is attached to memories. A late restart where nobody knew what he would do next. A burnout after a win that made the grandstands shake. A post-race interview where his words cut sharper than anyone expected. A rivalry that made fans pick sides before the green flag even dropped. That pressure rumor felt personal, because when a name has been part of people's Sundays for years, it stops being just a headline. It becomes part of the rhythm of their lives. Fans remember where they were when he won championships. They remember the boos. They remember the trophies. They remember the moments when he seemed impossible to beat. They remember the moments when he looked like he was fighting the entire sport by himself. And that kind of history does not disappear when a rumor appears. It makes the rumor heavier. It makes the panic sharper. It makes even people who never called themselves Kyle Busch fans pause and think, wait, is this real? That question is what sends people searching. And the search itself can make the rumor look bigger than it really is. Because search engines do not always show emotion. They show volume. They show what people are typing. They show the shadow of public anxiety. So when enough fans search a phrase like Kyle Busch death, it can begin to look like something major has happened, even when the real story is that people are trying to find out whether anything happened at all. That is the strange trap of the modern internet. The panic becomes visible. Then the visibility creates more panic. A rumor starts as a whisper. Then it becomes a trend. Then the trend becomes the reason more people believe there must be something behind it. But a trend is not a confirmation. A spike in searches is not an obituary. A wave of comments is not a trusted report. And with Kyle Busch, the line has to stay clear. You attack evidence from reliable public sources that Kyle Busch has died. What spread was fear, confusion, and online speculation. And in a sport like NASCAR, that fear has deep roots. Because racing fans know what danger looks like. They have seen cars snap sideways in a blink. They have seen hard impacts that freeze an entire broadcast. They have seen crews run toward smoke. They have seen drivers climb out of wreckage and wave to the crowd while everyone exhales at once. That moment, when a driver steps out and raises a hand, is one of the most powerful sights in motorsports. It reminds everyone that behind the helmet is a human being, not a machine, not a logo, not just a number on the door. A person, a father, a husband, a son, a competitor with a life beyond the track. That is where death rumors become cruel, even when they are not started with cruelty. They turn a real person into a panic button. They make fans fear the worst before anyone has checked the truth. They drag families, teams, and communities into a storm they never asked for. And they remind us how quickly the internet can confuse concern with certainty. Kyle Busch has built his career around intensity. He has never been the driver who quietly blended in. He raced like he had something to prove every time the engine fired. He celebrated like winning was the only language he understood. He argued. He pushed. He carried confidence that some people called arrogance and others called greatness. Inside the pocket, him so compelling. You did not have to like Kyle Busch to watch him. You only had to know that when he was on track, something could happen. That is rare. Most athletes spend their lives trying to become unforgettable. Kyle Busch became unforgettable almost by force. He made fans react. He made rivals respond. He made cameras follow him even when he was not winning. He turned every race into a stage where love and hate could sit in the same grandstand wearing different colors. And maybe that is why this rumor spread with so much force. Because people already had emotion attached to his name. Strong emotion. Old emotion. Emotion built over years of racing, arguing, defending, and watching. So when the darkest possible word appeared besides that name, the reaction was instant.